Trump is back to money molestation, his favorite activity. It wasn't enough that he's molested the money through the Strait of Hormuz. He's going to molest the money directly. Trump is now molesting the European Union's money once again, announcing a 25% tariff on cars and trucks from the European Union.
So Hasan Piker just exposed how Trump's February 2026 Iran attack created a strategic nightmare that's now bleeding into trade wars with Europe. This isn't just about tariffs. It's about how military failures cascade into economic desperation. Let's break down this imperial death spiral.
I love these little media press tours that he does right before he gets on the helicopter with the loudest background noise possible, where he'll just say a bunch of unhinged things and then prop his big ass up on that helicopter and fly away. Okay.
These helicopter pressers are pure political theater. Create chaos with bold announcements, then literally fly away before reporters can ask follow-ups. It's strategic noise-making that lets him control the narrative while avoiding accountability for contradictory positions.
This deal that he is currently unsatisfied with, ironically enough, is the exact deal that he agreed to approximately 2 to 3 weeks ago. It's the same exact deal. It's the same exact 10-point deal that Iran presented by the second week of Operation Epstein's Fury. It's really interesting to see him now go back on that after agreeing to it approximately 2 weeks ago. He's dissatisfied with the same deal that he said yes to.
This flip-flopping destroys American credibility globally. When you agree to terms, then publicly reject the same deal weeks later, every future negotiating partner knows your word is worthless. Iran now holds all the cards precisely because of this inconsistency.
Trip with China is not going to be amazing because, as I talked to Trita Parsi about this as well, as I've explained to you over and over again, Donald Trump was supposed to go to China and have tremendous leverage. He had Venezuela. He was able to forcibly decouple Venezuela from China. Venezuela is Chinese entrance into the Latin American marketplace, and it was a stronghold for Chinese influence in South America. And Donald Trump was able to do the Maduro kidnapping operation.
Venezuela was China's gateway to Latin America. Losing Maduro should have given Trump massive leverage in Beijing, but that advantage evaporated when the Iran operation failed. You can't walk into negotiations from a position of strength after such a spectacular military blunder.
You can't just kidnap and depose the leader of a sovereign nation state, but America gets to do that, and the entirety of the European Union was in agreement with this decision, not realizing what that says about international law. But he thought he could do the same thing with Iran. But of course, he failed to do so. Maybe it was partially because of bad intelligence that he got from the Israeli side. Maybe it was his own personal hubris. Maybe it was because he felt that he could have a string of successes here going into the China negotiations, going into the Beijing summit.
Venezuela and Iran are completely different targets. Deposing Maduro required minimal military force against a weakened state. Iran has 93 million people, mountainous terrain, and actual military capabilities. The hubris of thinking these operations were equivalent was staggering.
One where America's force projection capabilities have diminished around the world. One where undoubtedly he will have to concede to a lot of Chinese demands if the summit happens at all. We don't know if the summit will take place. Part of the reason why is because, as I said, he hasn't been able to wrap up this Iran situation. And there's really no way for him to wrap up this Iran situation without America taking significant L's.
China's watching America struggle against a regional power and calculating accordingly. If the U.S. can't decisively handle Iran, Beijing knows it holds the upper hand in any bilateral summit. Military failures telegraph weakness to your actual strategic rivals.
The aftermath of the second instance of perfidy, where America and Israel started bombing Iran and assassinated its entire leadership, the IRGC leadership that existed, the Ayatollah, and many in the civilian leadership, Iran came out of that process 50 days later with more leverage than they had prior to the negotiations process. They now control the Strait of Hormuz. They've now shown the world that America is maybe a little bit of a paper tiger.
Iran now controls 20% of global energy transit through Hormuz after 50 days of supposed American military superiority. That's not just a tactical loss, it's a fundamental shift in global power dynamics that benefits Iran's allies, especially China.
And not only were they not able to force Iran to submit, they also gave Iran more leverage, control over the Strait of Hormuz, this key choke point that is responsible for transiting 20% of the entire world's energy supply. That's a spectacular flub regardless.
Controlling Hormuz gives Iran veto power over the global economy. Every manufacturing hub in Asia depends on that energy flow. When production costs spike in Vietnam, Bangladesh, and South Korea, inflation hits American consumers directly. Economic warfare cuts both ways.
America showed its regional partners that its security commitments are to Israel and Israel only and no one else, and that they are completely incapable of even defending their own military bases and their own assets in these regions, and they're certainly not even capable of defending the other industrial assets that are also in these regions that are owned in many instances by American companies anyway. So you now have to either submit to Iran's demands, which I suspect Trump would do if he was a little bit reasonable here, before going to the Beijing summit.
Prioritizing Israel over regional allies shattered the broader Middle East alliance system. Saudi Arabia, UAE, and others now see America as an unreliable partner focused solely on Israeli interests rather than mutual security arrangements. That's decades of relationship building destroyed.
These guys are screaming bloody murder at this point. They've dug deep into their reserves. There's a diminished economic activity in the manufacturing base of the entire planet, because that's what the Asian markets are, right? Entirely removed here in the United States of America from the rest of the globe. This is the design of global capitalism. If things are harder to produce or more costly to produce or can't even be produced in places like Vietnam, South Korea, China, Bangladesh, India, there's going to be an inflationary impact in the United States of America and the Western markets as well.
This energy disruption is creating the exact inflation spiral that helped decide the 2024 election. When Asian manufacturing costs surge due to energy shortages, those price increases flow directly to American consumers, buying everything from electronics to clothing.
So there is a domestic crisis that's brewing, a domestic inflation crisis that's brewing, and Donald Trump is incapable of addressing it, doesn't even want to think about it, doesn't even want to talk about it. All he wants to talk about is his stupid ballroom. Americans are frustrated. American hegemony has been threatened, and there's no way out of this.
While American cities deal with energy-driven inflation, Trump's hosting fundraisers at Mar-a-Lago. This disconnect between leadership luxury and citizen struggle mirrors late-stage imperial decline. Elites partying while the empire burns. History rhymes.
Is either de-escalate or escalate, right? If he de-escalates, that's taking a major L. That's taking an L that is unambiguous, right? Everyone understands that the American side lost this battle because their opposition gained more leverage in the process, have more control, and can force America, this hegemon, to do their bidding for once. So that's a huge and unambiguous defeat for the United States of America. That is if he de-escalates, which is the best possible option here. If
America's caught in a classic credibility trap. Any de-escalation looks like defeat to global rivals, but escalation risks catastrophic failure. Putin, Xi, and others are watching closely. American struggle against Iran signals broader imperial weakness.
Obviously, the maximum escalation would be the deployment of nuclear arms. He can't do that. This will change the dynamic of the planet. The other thing he could potentially do is invade militarily. But once again, Iran is a gigantic country. 93 million people live there. Its topography has created this mountainous fortress, right? It's a natural fortress surrounded on all sides by mountains with a not insignificant number of conventional forces as well.
Iran's geography makes invasion nearly impossible. Those mountain ranges create natural defensive positions that would make Afghanistan look simple. With 93 million people and decent military capabilities, this would be Vietnam-scale casualties minimum.
Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Western military forces dying in the process. And even if they did succeed, you would destabilize this country with 93 million people. There's no real guarantee of military success there either. Obviously, even the escalation on the American side would yield even further death and destruction, and perhaps the death of American empire. It'd be the final nail in the coffin.
Any Iran invasion would require massive troop deployments America simply cannot sustain. Post-invasion occupation of 93 million people would drain resources for decades, while other rivals like China expand unopposed. It would truly end American global dominance.
So what do we do? Well, therein lies the problem. That's precisely the reason why Donald Trump is stuck in this limbo, doing increasingly dumber things. You're wrong about the U.S. literally doesn't have the military to invade. The size and complexity of such an operation would rival D-Day. We have 5,000 amphibious troops, not 500,000, which we'd need. No, I know.
Military recruitment is at historic lows, and Americans won't support another foreign war after Iraq and Afghanistan disasters. The volunteer military model breaks down when you need Vietnam-level manpower for questionable strategic objectives.
And I think that would be bedlam. I don't think Americans are excited at the prospect of waging war against Iran, especially at this stage when there's really nothing to look forward to anyway. And there's no real reason to wage war with Iran. And most Americans would look at this and go, yeah, no, this is because of Israel. I'm not going to die for Israel. Get the out of here. Send Israeli troops there if you want, which we all know is not going to happen.
Polling consistently shows Americans oppose Middle East interventions, especially for Israeli interests. The disconnect is stark. Israel benefits from American military action, but contributes minimal forces themselves. That hypocrisy isn't lost on war-weary voters.
But even this conversation is a little silly where it's like Americans only care about what happens to their wallets, right? Like, we just don't even care. We don't care about anything. It's crazy.
It was in the early hours.
This consumer-focused mindset reflects how disconnected Americans are from empire's human costs. We'll protest gas prices but ignore civilian casualties. That moral blindness is both a symptom and cause of imperial decline.
Donald Trump has shown one very important reality to everyone that's paying attention. Many people aren't, but to those who are paying attention, we now know none of this stuff matters, okay? The law doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if you are going to hold the president accountable, if you're going to make a big fuss about it. And it seems, for many Democrats as well, as the entirety of the Republican Party, they don't care about any of these laws. The presidents in the past have also ignored the war powers resolutions, and I'm not shocked that Trump is doing the same. An illusion.
The War Powers Resolution has been dead-letter law for decades. Presidents from both parties ignore congressional oversight when convenient. What's changed is the open contempt for even pretending constitutional limits matter. The facade is finally dropped.